there, and welcome to another edition of the College Zone Sports Show. Today I have with us Michael Childers. Michael Childers, happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you.
And we're going to talk a little bit about the year in review. We're almost at New Year's Eve, day before it. And just looking back last year, it was just this past year is a sensational year.
Yeah, like I said, it's hard to believe that we're actually turning the calendar over to 2020. It's the end of the decade. We've had a lot of great things happen this decade, and especially last year we had, a team compete at the state level in girls basketball and a team bring home a state championship in football. So we'll talk about that today.
And really, you've been doing this for 10 years. I've been doing it for 16, 17 years. But these past 2 years, it's been just years has been unbelievable. We've got regional champions, state champions, national champions, the cheerleaders. It's just been on and on.
Yeah, you take a look at, at the beginning of the decade, we had teams, challenging kind of for district championships, and at the end of the decade, we got teams competing at the state and national level, and that just shows you how far sports have come in the past decade.
Because used to, you think, okay, if somebody because a lot of times we would celebrate a team that got regional runner-up. Now regional championships has sort of become the norm on a lot of these programs.
Yeah, region championships, that's kind of the standard now for, basketball teams, football teams, baseball teams, and, if they don't bring home that region title at the end of the year, it's a disappointment.
We start out the year, this year, when you go all back to February, we had probably one of our bigger champions, and that was the Pulaski Cheerleaders, who won the national titles. I think each year all the cheerleading programs go down to Florida and compete for the nationals, and Pulaski came away with the national championship, which was just a huge, and Southwest had done it before, and Somerset's always had a good cheerleading program. I know they've gotten the top so many, so it's just really a good way to start the year.
Yeah, and Kentucky is a cheerleading powerhouse. You take a look at all the teams that go down there and win, and they should just have the national championship here in Kentucky because, cheerleading here is a big deal, and for Pulaski to go down there and travel all that distance and come home with the championship, and you have to be perfect to get that, because if you mess up one time, that hurts your chances. And they did a great job and brought home the national title.
And I know a lot of times we don't talk about it or we put it in sports pages a lot for the cheerleaders, but it's probably as athletic sport as any sport out there, because they're doing some athletic moves with injuries and everything else. So they really put in the hours, and just the stuff they do physical wise is just amazing.
Yeah, and they do team practices, where they practice 3-4 hours a day, and then a lot of them go to gymnastics and tumbling and all that stuff, and they put in the work, and they deserve, and that is a big deal to bring home a national title.
And then in March, talk a little bit about, because you sort of were the beat writer for the Southwestern High School girls basketball team. Just talk about that experience.
Yeah, it was really neat, and growing up as a Southwestern fan, and then graduating from there, it was really a big deal, because I've seen all those times Southwestern come up short. Mercer County has been their kryptonite over the years, and just if you could lose in a heartbreaking way, it's happened to the Southwestern Lady Warriors. And finally, this year, they were able to get over that hump and bring home that regional title. They beat PC in the first round, and then got past Lincoln County, who was the favorite, and then beat pesky Casey County team. And they brought home that regional title, and then everybody's like, "Well, congrats!" But they weren't done, and then they went to Rupp Arena and just shocked the state. And they beat Collins in the first round. Then North Laurel, I don't think they missed a shot. They could have shot from the parking lot, and they went in. And then they came back against Mel in the fourth quarter and got that win to advance to the state championship. And then Ryle just came out and had I think a 17-0 run to start the game, and Southwestern just couldn't catch up from there. But it was still an amazing run from Coach Butcher.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about them as far as being Coach of the Year. But it was sort of an amazing storyline, because he sort of announced the team, and we found out about right after district this was going to be his last year, because he was taking a administrative job at Southwestern High School, and he couldn't coach and do both, and he was sort of already doing that already. So it was sort of amazing that this, the girls knew it was going to be his last year.
Yeah.
And they really gave him just a great going away.
Yeah, you couldn't talk about a better way to finish than state runner-up. That had never been to the state tournament, and to get there and finish with a big state runner-up trophy is not a bad thing.
It's really amazing that was only his first region. I know he'd done it before at the other school he was at, but he never lost a district game. He just ran through the district, and he came so close so many years. So it was good to see him finally do that, and to go as far as he did in the state.
Yeah, it was a great thing for the Lady Warriors, because like I said, they've had many heartbreaking losses over the years, and to finally get that regional title, and I think they got a good shot again this year.
So it was probably the longest basketball season we've had, and gosh, probably when the Fraleys and Hertz won the basketball PC back way back when they won the finals. But then we go into spring, and then it was start all over again. We had all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff. Talk
Yeah.
a little bit about spring because you're
Yeah,
part of spring.
you know, you had baseball, softball, tennis, and track and field, and all the teams did really well. Especially Somerset. You take a look; they win. It's kind of the year of the Briar Jumper. They came home with the regional title in baseball, and then the tennis team. They came home with the regional title, and then track and field. Kendall Burgess, especially at the state level, they finished state runner-up. So that was a pretty impressive feat by them.
When you talk about baseball, I mean, all three teams were evenly matched because even Somerset struggled to even beat Pulaski to get out of the district, and then they go all the way and actually got beat by Taste Creek, who ended up winning the state. So, who knows how far Somerset could have went if they had not, got it with Taste Creek.
Yeah, and like you said, Somerset, they almost didn't even make it out of their district.
Right.
They went into, I think, was it 13 innings
crazy,
against Pulaski, and then were able, and then once they got to region, they came from behind, against Boyle County. And then West Jessamine and all those, and it was.
And the Damwell game was back and forth.
Yeah.
It was just a home run slugfest. And then tennis also, Somerset, Coach Rubel won the region team last, but they also had a doubles boys team that won region.
Yeah, they had just a solid tennis program from Coach Rubel. He's done a really nice job over there, and then they were able to have some players advance to the state tournament, and then that kind of propelled them to regional titles. So that was a good effort by them.
And we'll talk a little more about Burgess. She was our athlete of the year, but I mean, Somerset got state runner-up, and a lot of it was because of her, because she got 2 state championships and 2 runner-up titles, so she scored a lot of that points.
Yeah.
And when you have an athlete that scores that much points, you're going to do pretty good in the state.
Yeah, if you can get one person like that and they can win you a state title, I think they were 1.5 points away from winning.
Exactly.
So it was that close, but she kind of put the team on her back. Preferably, you hear that a lot, and propelled them to a state runner-up finish. So that was awesome.
Okay. And then also, we talked about the archery team, Pulaski archery team.
Yeah, archery is a sport that's really grown over the past decade as well. And PC's archery team, Morgan Belcher, did really well and propelled them to a state championship. So that was really cool by them.
Right. And then this past fall, of course, we start out with golf, Pulaski girls golf. They won back-to-back regional titles, and then they ended up going 5th in the state. They just got a strong group of girls who will all be back next year too. But they, Coach Atkins, who does both the girls basketball and the girls golf, is doing a tremendous job, and those girls are really starting to dominate in the golf.
Yeah, they got a really strong program. Chris Atkins has done a really nice job with them, and they win the region last year, and then they come back with that target on their back and win again. So that was really impressive by them, and like you said, they got a lot of their core players returning next year.
And then football, before we get to Somerset Southwestern, they had a new coach, Jason Foley, and starting out the season, I know me and you went to one of the early summer practices, and there was more kids on the sideline with crutches and bandages than there was kids on the field.
Yeah, and like I said, you keep hearing about this, but they started 2-5, and most teams right there, they fold. They already lost district games to North Laurel and Whitley County, and then they come back and they beat South Laurel to make it into the playoffs and the 4 seed, and then they come to PC and upset.
Because they were very close to not even being in the playoffs.
It could have easily lost at South Laurel, and then come and upset PC on their home field, and that gave them a lot of momentum. Then they beat Madison Central, and then they had to play PC again, come back and beat PC on their home field, and then go to Whitley County, a team that had beat them already, and come away with the district title in Jason Foley's first season. So that was a really amazing turnaround, and Foley deserves a lot of that credit, and of course he'll credit the players for that, but he did a nice coaching job to keep them focused and on the process is what he likes to say.
And each week in the previews, I know you talked to him too, but each week you talked to him, and then the biggest thing was every week somebody had come in, which was great, but then you had players switching positions, and I mean he had just had so many moving pieces, and it was tough for the kids to be able to adjust because one day you might be a running back, the next week you might be a quarterback.
Yeah.
Or you might be something else. So that was really big that these kids was able to, and a lot of them just played different positions.
Yeah, and he had to have different, like you said, all kinds of puzzle pieces and finding where to put them. Because like you said, one week Xavier Shear was the starting wide receiver, and the next week he's playing quarterback. And you just never really knew what to expect, and the injuries just kind of plagued them early on. And once they got everybody back healthy and found those people in the right spots, they were able to turn things around.
And then obviously, the big story was Somerset football. I mean, oh my gosh, it was just an amazing season. They were doing so good, and then of course Alex Miller, their senior star running back, got hurt, and then everybody thought, oh my gosh, we may not be able to do well. They got beat by Lexington Christian, and then and all of a sudden, just it's sort of like Southwestern. Although they didn't go that low a point, but they were having some adversity. But then they just ran through and just had some amazing games and wins to get all the way to state finals.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a Hollywood script. Lose one of your best players, and you think the season's not going to turn your way, and then you have this storybook ending, kind of like they had in Kroger Field, and you keep hearing about the catch and the call, and it was something that was in a movie, and it was awesome, and that's something I'll never forget.
I mean, you were there too, and I saw you in the stands. But I mean, 28 seconds, 86 yards, no timeouts. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, your hero.
Yeah.
Would you think that he could pull that off?
No, I mean, the odds were against them, and they just put it together. I couldn't believe it. It was amazing, and it's something that I'll never forget because, like you said, 28 seconds left, and you got to go the whole length of the field. I was like, there's no way, and then somehow they did, and it was cool.
Now, I know the people Somerset know the story, and I sort of learned the story when I talked to John Ballou and Tim Washington when I did their story, but they use this term, it makes the story even better, and where they got that from is when they were down to Breathitt County, 13-0, 2 offensive plays, Breathitt County just scored. And Coach Sharon looked at his son, Kai Sharon, and he was on the sideline smiling, and he goes, what are you smiling about? He goes, it's only going to make the story better.
Yeah.
And they came back and won that game, and it was just, and you think 113 years, they'd been to the state finals, this was their 6th time, never won it, and just to end it that way and to win it that way, it made the story even better.
And I remember the last play, it happened right in front of me, and then it's just like, he's wide open, and it's like, right there, he catches it, and everybody just screaming. My dad, he was a Somerset graduate, and he was, tearing up, and then he went and spent $60 on a sweatshirt. He's like, "Better go buy one." So it was neat. I know a lot of the former jumpers are, extremely proud of that team because they, kind of played a role in that, and they set a good foundation.
Yeah, and it was a great moment. And I did a story about the sportsmanship because it was for Mayfield. I mean, they had been to state finals. This was the 3rd straight trip, and they had gotten beat on a play that you had to think the kids, we got this one, and they weren't celebrating, but you thought, okay, they can't do this, but they were so heartbroken. But yet the Somerset people realized that, or Somerset kids realized that, and they sort of tried to pick them up and tell them they had a great season. It was just a great story all the way around.
Yeah, and that just shows you the program that Robbie Lucas has built. Everybody talks about how humble a guy is, and he's always been nice to me. And but in that moment when you just conquered the best thing in sports by winning a state title, you had some players that go over there and say, hey man, you played great, and I'm sorry about, and I thought that was just being the bigger person and being a good competitor.
Yeah, I mean, because for an adult it'd be heartbreaking. For a kid, it has to be just heart-wrenching to lose like that, or to lose a game like that. So and then sort of transitioning into that, we talked about our Coach of the Year. We had a really, really tough decision because we had 2 great coaches that had 2 great accomplishments. And so we had to go co-coaches this year, and that was with Robbie Lucas at Somerset, and then of course Stephen Butcher at Southwestern. I know you covered a lot with Coach Butcher. Talk about him and just his story.
Yeah, when he walked into the job at Southwestern, the standards were high. It's like he knew he had to win a regional title, and it probably took him a lot longer than he wanted to. But in his final coaching year, he they had through some adversity. Callie Sharon got hurt, and then in the postseason, Callie Sharon and a lot of others, they just stepped their game up. And Coach Butcher played a big role in that because he had some good game plans that, against Lincoln County, they were down at halftime, and they come out in the 3rd quarter, made some adjustments, and from there on, they kind of were a different team and able to, from that 3rd quarter, Lincoln County on, ride to a state runner-up finish.
And really in the end of the regular season, I know they had some, they got beat. They had some tough games and weren't playing real great towards the end of the season, as good as they had been playing. But then Callie really started to come on and I don't know, it's like I was talking to some of the girls, was the fact that they knew that this was last year and just really like they just started playing a different level.
Yeah, I think in that win, it was the last regular season game at Mercer County, a team that, like I said, has been their kryptonite, and they go on the road to Harrodsburg and get that victory. And from that point on, Callie Sharon just played lights out, and she was their leading scorer in everything. I think every game but one, and she did a really good job. And Coach Butcher kind of did the game plan to center around the way she was playing. And but it was a great year for Coach Butcher and the Lady Warriors.
And I really learned this about him later on. But he's a really emotional type guy. He's really in the family. And you talk about his family. He had his niece playing on the team. He had his sister keeping the scorebook. His mom,
I was on the sidelines.
yeah, she was on the bench.
Yeah.
I think she was having back problems, and so he just said, "Mom, just sit on the bench." So she's
Yeah.
on the bench. It was really just a family story, and he had his kids like at state tournament. His kids were doing somersaults during timeouts and stuff. So that was really fun to watch too.
Yeah, and I think he'll look back on that down the road and be like, man, that was so cool to have my family right there with me in this special run. And, because that's always neat. I mean, your niece is playing in front of your daughter sitting beside you, your mom sitting beside you. And I think he was kidding his mom was like, you got to step your game up here a little bit. But, that it was pretty neat to see that.
The other coach was Robbie Lucas, who obviously he had won it once before when they went to state finals in 2009, which was his first year.
Mm-hmm.
And I started looking back, and oddly enough, he was the interim coach in 2009 because his previous predecessor, Coach Jay Cobb, had resigned like maybe 11 or 12 days before. So he was still just interim coach.
Yeah.
He went undefeated through the season. They did get beat in the finals, and then he was named the Class AAA Coach of the Year. So, he wasn't like he was like a Calipari had a big press conference and he was brought in as a coach. He just sort of, got it by committee. But, he stuck with it. In 2014, they went 0-10. So he had some tough times, but, he just pulled them together, and they just ended up with a great season. And, the one thing I talked to him about, he said, I learned to be more calm. He said, if I lose my head, the kids will lose their head. And he said, that last play in the state championship, it showed because he had one more time out to tell them that last drive, and and the kids all seemed, pretty confident in that.
And Robbie Lucas is a great football coach, and I think every school in the state has probably called him once since he's taken the Somerset job to say, hey, come coach for us, but he wants to stay at Somerset, and he's done a great job at Somerset, and for him to be the name of the coach of the year is well deserving because he did a great job, and in those moments, like you said, with 28 seconds left, your team's like probably down on themselves. And he's like, hey, guys, we can do this. And they were able to get the job done. So, very well deserving.
Yeah. I mean, I was on the sidelines, and I had no stake in it other than just watching one of my team win. But I was nervous as could be.
Yeah.
And it's hard to imagine that he could be that calm and keep the kids calm. It was amazing if they just,
Yeah. So, it was, because I know all the Somerset fans were up there, just like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. But to stay calm in that moment, that just shows you how, collected he was. And, and he was able to stay under control and bring home that state title, which, very well deserving.
Then our athletes of the year, the male athletes, I sort of looked at everything, and there was a lot of great athletes, but when you talk about Cade Grundy, I mean, how do you, I mean, he got it last year, and I thought, well, I don't want to give him again this year, but you just can't deny him. I mean, he doesn't play just well in all three sports. He dominates it. He was a player of the year in baseball, player of the year in basketball. We just got finished doing our all-county football. He's going to be on the team. Could have been the player of the year in football, but I mean, he was a big part of the one because they double and triple teamed him, and then that next to last play, they had a pass interference because they just didn't want him to catch the ball. He was that spectacular an athlete.
I remember my first Cade Grundy kind of welcome to the show moment was I think he was in 8th grade against PC and came out and just lit it up in an upset victory over the Maroons. And ever since then, if there's a ball,
and that was the year the Maroons won the region.
Yeah. And if there's a ball though, and there's a game, and Cade Grundy can dominate, and it's crazy. He plays baseball, basketball, football, and you don't see many three-sport stars today, and he's a star in each of them.
Yeah, and if you say his main sport is baseball, which he's already, as an 8th grader, committed to Louisville, a Division I team that's usually in the national hunt, it's amazing enough. But then he's been playing the national team for the Olympics, and he played that all the way into August. So he got no football training, but yet he comes out in football and just from day one just starts making interceptions. He would on football he was a wide receiver, defensive back. He was a punter. He did kickoff returns. Nobody kicked to him. He was a punt returner. I mean, he did it all. It's like, when does the kid rest?
Yeah. So he's playing baseball in Wrigley Field one day, and then a few days later he's practicing football. So it's crazy.
And then and there's a lot of them. Chase Bruner, Kai Sharon, but. Just a day or two after the football and state championship, they were out playing basketball.
Yeah.
They're playing basketball right now. They played in the Holiday Classic tournament, in the hoops tournament. So okay, so that was our male athlete, and then female, a lot of good girl athletes too. But I mean, when you got a girl that goes to state meet and pretty much guides her team to state runner-up, and she gets 2 state titles and 2 runner-up titles. That's pretty special.
Yeah, and like you said, we have a lot of athletes in this town that could easily win these awards. But Kendall Burgess, like she, had a great track season, and then goes to Lexington against some of the state's best, and brings home 2 state titles, so 2 first-place finishes, and then 2 second-place finishes, and almost leads her team to a state title. That's saying something pretty special.
Yeah, and then also she'd always been a long jumper and sprinter, but she had started learning how to triple jump this year, so it was really a new event to her. And you're a track guy. Triple jump's not an easy event. There's a lot of technicals. It's like a hop, jump, and skip, or things. So it's a lot of technical parts to it. And she was just learning that event, and she won the state just learning it.
Yeah, and I've tried triple jump and not very successful at it. But it's a lot, like you said, very technical. You've got to practice and get your steps down, because if you miss by just a little bit, that could throw off the whole jump. So to be able to do that and still focus on her running events was a pretty big deal.
So that being said, we got New Year coming up. Any predictions or any teams or any people you think is going to be our sports makers or our headlines for next year?
I think you take a look at your basketball teams. I think there'll be a couple of teams challenge for regional title in basketball.
Because obviously Southwestern girls are probably favored to win the region this year.
Yeah, I think them, Casey County are kind of in the mix. I think you could easily see Southwestern back at Rupp. And on the boys' side, there's so many different teams that could win region. Pulaski, Somerset, or Southwestern could easily make the trip to Rupp for the state championship.
I know I interviewed Coach Fraley. He said if you make it to the region, you probably got a chance to win. I think locally we do have 3 pretty even teams, and I think 3 of them can win it. But like I said, there's a lot of other teams. Heard East had a good game. West is always good. Danville, Lincoln County.
Yeah.
So it's just a host of teams.
Yeah, Lincoln I think was kind of picked preseason #1 for the boys, but like you said, if you make it to the region tournament, I think it's wide open.
All right. Well, I hope this year was as good as this next year as good as this year.
I hope so too. I appreciate you having me on.
Happy New Year. Man.
Happy New Year.
Thanks, Joe.